So today we're looking at the biggest differences between the Scout and the Scout 60, some of which may surprise you, but I'm hoping that this video will actually help you out. If you're looking at these two bikes, you're wondering which one is best for me, I hope to answer that question right here in this video. Now, of course, there's some things that you're gonna have to decide for yourself, but I'm gonna tell you the 5 big differences between the Scout and the Scout 60. Now remember, this will apply to the Rogue, it'll apply to the regular Scout, and the bobbers that we're looking at here today. We got a 2023 regular Scout bobber, we got a 2023 Scout Bobber 60. Let's go ahead and get right into it. Now, before we start, I'd like to thank American Biker here in Latson, South Carolina for letting me come out today and test out these two bikes. If you need a new Indian, a used Harley, or a Vaco, Slingshot, whatever, come check out the entire inventory selection that they have. Talk to Rob. These guys are incredible, man. And again, big thanks for their support and letting me come out and review these two bikes today. All right, so let's start with some of the more basic differences, and then we'll go into some of the really important differences between these two. The first of which is the weight. There's not a big difference here, so I'm gonna kind of lump this in with some of the smaller things. The Scout 60 is 548 pounds. The regular Scout is 553 pounds. They both have a 25.6-inch seat height, so if you are a new rider, returning rider, shorter rider, woman, whatever, these things are so confidence inspiring because you can get your feet on the ground pretty much no matter who you are. The regular Scout has the Pirelli MT60 RS tires. They're a little bit more rugged, a little bit knobbier. You may tell a little bit of difference on the road as far as the way it handles, but it's not that big of a difference. You have the Pirelli Night Dragons on the Scout 60, so a little bit more of a traditional street tire. All right, let's talk about some of the aesthetic differences between the two. Now you'll see up here on the Scout 60, you don't have this little cowling that you do on the regular Scout. So it's literally just an appearance thing, but the regular Scout looks so much cleaner with that cowling piece that's over the headlight. I don't think they call it a cowling, but you know, it's the cover that goes over the headlight right here. This obviously has your cables exposed and everything else. The Scout is going to offer you aesthetically a better look as far as the headlight and this area right here. Also, you'll notice on the Scout, on the regular Scout, the top of the heads there have this like brushed aluminum look. Well, on the Scout 60, it's all blacked out. So that's just a matter of preference there, but we're going to get to something even bigger on the engine side of it. So just hang tight for a second. Also, you'll notice on the Scout 60, they both have that same type of tuck and roll, low profile seat. Both of them look good. It's all blacked out on the Scout 60, but you have that brown leather, genuine leather with the black two-tone side on it. It just looks a little bit more premium. Both of them have similar setups as far as the bobber look. You have the low profile fender, you have the teardrop style gas tank. Both of them are 3.3 gallon tanks, by the way. And then of course you have the low profile cut off fenders. But one interesting thing on the Scout, on the swing arm, it's all cast. And of course it's not plastic on the Scout 60, don't get me wrong, but it has a plastic cover as opposed to the whole thing being cast on the Scout. So just a little bit more premium. So one thing I don't want to do is make excuses or try to sell you on either one of these. You know what I mean? I just want to give you the information. And so we have a $3,000 difference here. So that's just another thing that adds a little bit more premium quality, if you will, for lack of better words, to the Scout, okay? But we're trying to make up that $3,000 gap. We still got quite a bit to cover. I don't think we've done a good enough job yet. Let's talk about some of the other bigger differences between these two. Another thing aesthetically I want to point out is the way the mirrors are laid out. So you see the mirrors on the Scout 60, they actually stick up like traditional mirrors, where on the bobber, they look more like a bobber. So they're actually on the handlebars. Functional wise, these actually work better on the Scout 60, but appearance wise, the ones on the Scout bobber, the regular Scout, look 100 times better. So now that we've covered the aesthetics of the bike, let's get into some more of the meat and potatoes of what makes these bikes really different. Next thing we're going to talk about here And one of the biggest things, one of the biggest differences is the motors. So they are both liquid cooled, right? So that's great if you're commuting, if you are in a hot environment, whatever the case may be, you get a lot of power from the liquid cooled motor, and you still get some of the benefits of, not as much heat and all of that. The big difference though is in the Scout 60, you have a 78 horsepower motor, where in the regular Scout, you're at 100 horsepower. That is massive. And when you get on these two bikes, if you have a dealer that will let you sit on them side by side and do a test ride, you will really see where that power makes a difference. Now, don't get me wrong, 78 horsepower in a bike that's 550 pounds roughly is no lightweight. And if you compare that to like an Iron 883 that's like 50 horsepower, well, you're actually doing a lot better than you would there. But the difference between here and here is really night and day. And in my personal opinion, that's where you're getting a majority of the extra cost. If you're a returning rider, but you've ridden motorcycles before, the Scout is a better option because you can grow into that, and it's still not so much power that you're gonna, end up hurting yourself. It's still a very forgiving motorcycle, while the 78 horsepower Scout 60 will do great if you are a new rider. You still got to be pretty careful with it. This isn't the best new rider, beginner type of motorcycle, but it's still something that is super forgiving, more forgiving than the regular Scout. A little bit less power, a little bit easier to kind of get your bearings and learn on in the regular Scout 60. So again, that's going to be up to you. The Scout is going to give you more flexibility, and I think more time to grow into that 100 horsepower. This might give you a little bit less, but definitely easier to get into if you are a brand new rider. Another big difference that you're gonna find on these two bikes is the transmission. So you have a 6-speed transmission in the regular Scout and a 5-speed in the Scout 60. So not as big as the motor difference between the two, but you really want that extra gear, especially when you're on the interstate, the highway. It's gonna be so much more, not really comfortable, but it's gonna vibrate a little bit less. It's gonna be a little bit smoother when you get up to 65, 70, 75 miles per hour, somewhere in there. That 6-speed is really nice to have. And that's one of the things I hated about the Iron. I keep bringing the Iron up because I imagine when a lot of people are looking at the Scout, they're also looking at the Harley Sportster lineup as well. And having a 5-speed transmission, even at 78 horsepower, that vibration just starts to get a little bit too much. And on these bikes, it's a little bit smoother than the Harley either way, but it's just something you want to consider, man. That 6-speed in this transmission, to me, makes a pretty big difference. And the last one we're going to talk about is some of the options that you get with the Scout versus the 60. You got the little charging port on the regular Scout where you don't on the 60. You get more color options and some really cool color options on the Scout that you won't get on the 60. Now this black smoke looks really cool, but this Springfield blue looks incredible. And you have even more options than this as far as the paint. So overall, the Scout is gonna give you a more premium motorcycle with a bigger motor, an extra gear in the transmission, and a lot more just quality of life things and aesthetics and the power to go with it. So what I would say, man, again, if you're a returning rider, you've ridden motorcycles before, or you are a current rider, but you want something you can rip around the city on, to me, it's a no-brainer. The $3,000 more for the Scout is the way to go. But if you are a new rider, brand new to this, and you have your eyes set on the Scout 60 bobber, is absolutely no slouch. Now, in my opinion, the regular Scout is where it's at, but everybody's different. I'd love to hear what your opinion of these two bikes is down in the comments below. Which one do you like better and why? Big thanks again. If you want to support what I do, you can do that on Patreon for as little as $1 and get early access to all of my content and some other things. See you in the next one. And as always, hold them down.